your best friend, are going to see the one, the only, Hannah Montana! Woo! Ah!
Hannah Montana was nearly a perfect show. I loved everything about it, from the doubling as a blonde superstar to getting her teeth fixed on a live cooking show. Yeah, Hannah Montana had a lot of variety in the best way. It's really hard to find episodes that I felt like weren't good, because I love that show so much, so I'm kind of biased. But I did. I have this new series called the Offensive series, where I kind of talk about the worst episodes of TV shows. And of course, offensive is just a buzzword I'm using just because I guess that's what the algorithm likes. I mean, it doesn't matter if the algorithm likes toast. I'm not going to cook it for you and put butter on it. Anyway, so we're going to talk about some of the worst episodes in each season. I usually choose the worst episode in every season, but then I also talk about a follow-up episode that I feel like is just as bad. I just like to give it a lot more variety, make these videos a little bit longer because it is fun to talk about. So if you're ready to see all the negative sides of this pop sensation, which if the news didn't show it to you already, I'm surprised, then it's time to dive into the most offensive episodes of Hannah Montana. Let's start with Season 1, shall we? Season 1, Episode 8. We have a little episode I like to call, and literally the copyright office likes to call. So this episode's called Mascot Love, and it's interesting. This whole show deals with Miley's double life, and this episode is one of the episodes that does that. They have 26 episodes in the first season, so they had a lot of time to establish what Miley's life is like, both on the celebrity side and the regular teenage side. And this episode feels a little bit redundant because it does everything the other episodes do, but slightly worse, I feel like. Mascot Love is about Miley joining the cheerleading squad, but since she can't be a cheerleader, she has to be the school mascot instead. It's Pirate Pete is their mascot, which is like, what middle school has a pirate as your mascot? I mean, it's borderline offensive because you know how like they have those sports teams that have like older tribes or like things that kind of relate to outdated cultural times. Like, I don't know, that's just kind of what I see happening. And this head is so smelly, it like basically disgusts Miley, because not only is she not on the cheerleading squad, but they make her do something humiliating, something that she is not used to at all, being this superstar. Like, it just shows at school that she is clearly not the person she wants to be. It kind of tests her in terms of being able to handle not having any attention and or her commitment to having this be a secret as opposed to just being an open celebrity and actually put herself out there. And it definitely deals with her complications of having that be at stake. We get a lot of really funny moments, like Oliver is the MC during this whole thing. Miley ends up getting in a fight with the opposing team's mascot, the flamingo. I was about to call it a pink pelican. Can you imagine the pink pelican? Yeah, so Miley is essentially fighting this pink pelican this whole episode, and I mean, it's the first season. Like, we gotta cut them some slack. They're still trying to figure out what works. They did a lot of these plot lines, and they're trying to figure out, like, the best parts of them. And I feel like this was definitely just, like, a miss all around, because it focused on a school extracurricular that wasn't really natural to any of the main characters. Like, Lily is normally a sports girly. Like, we've established that many times. For this episode, she's a cheerleader. Miley is not a sports girly, nor is she, like, a super girly. I feel like she's more stuck in the middle. She just wants to make friends and, like, actually form connections, which is really sweet, something that none of us actively go out of our way to do anymore, which is kind of sad. I was just watching Wizards of Waverly Place, and it's just so funny to think of how many shows did this trope of, like, joining the cheerleading squad. Like, what? Not all of us joined the cheerleading squad at that age, and I feel like most of us watching these shows were, like, somewhat involved in theater, or things that were like a little bit more artsy because we spent time watching entertainment. I just feel like that was like natural. So seeing this episode was definitely, it felt out of character. It felt like this was one of the misses of the first season, that if this was like the first episode I saw, I don't know how I would feel about it. You gotta admit though, it starts off pretty strong with Miley like running backstage and back on stage, arguing with Lily about how busy her life is, which is definitely the role of a superstar. So to contrast that with her joining the sports team, it's a funny episode, but it doesn't actually do anything that Hannah Montana did best. So I had to put this as like the number one not best. Speaking of not good episodes from the first season, Schooly Bully, I think I made a video ranking all the episodes, but this one was also really out of place. Schooly Bully is season 1, episode 23. So this is like toward the end of the first season. Like, they should definitely have their bearings around this time. Like, Miley in this episode is focused on dodging a school bully, something that doesn't feel like it represents Hannah Montana necessarily at all. The only connection this episode had to Hannah Montana is the incorporation of Roxy, which, by the way, is one of my favorite characters. Like, I'm so happy we get a Roxy episode, and it's a funny concept. It's basically Miley can't defend herself at school, so she has her bodyguard from the Hannah Montana world come in and defend her, which is so crazy. It's definitely a funny concept, but I feel like they didn't lean into the joking part of it. They more so just used it as a plot device to try to communicate a couple things. And yeah, so it felt kind of unnatural to me, especially for the fact that it is already a comedy. Like, they could have leaned into it a little bit more. They just focus on making fun of the school bully, who is a stereotypical bully, like just this emo girl wearing makeup. Not really a fine representation of what a bully is, but back then I guess that's what we assumed they were. And she just like used a lot of intimidation tactics, like she's just like threatening Miley like outwardly, when really bullying could be nuanced sometimes. It's just somebody sometimes intending to hurt another person. And that's what this girl is doing this episode. I feel bad for this actress because it's a very one-dimensional character to have the bully. Like, we've had more interesting episodes where people have gotten under Miley's skin, but they more so have to do with her celebrity life and not necessarily just her school life. Like, I would love to have seen her be bullied by somebody a little bit more impactful, like Amber and Ashley. Just this random person doesn't really develop the plot any further, so I'm not really into this that much. Roxy being her first episode, that she's like in the plot a lot, I have to give that credit, because that is something that I feel like their best episodes have Roxy in it. So the fact that this one really didn't do too well wasn't super fun. They kind of play a lot on the bullying, where it's like Miley getting hurt or Lily being intimidated. Like, it doesn't really show them like having their character flaws put on blast or giving them an obstacle to overcome as well as other episodes. Like, it's hard, because Hannah Montana is one of the best shows I've ever seen, so going against it and being like, this is not a good episode, is very nuanced for me. But I would say that this one feels just so off, and it could have been a Disney XD show at this point. They have a little side plot with the guy from Malcolm in the Middle, which I find really cool. It's funny to think that, like, Robbie and Jackson end up doing, like, this father-son getaway, but they get put in a cabin with a giant heart-shaped bed, and then they get snowed in and can't leave. Something that really doesn't have anything to do with the original A-plot. Like, it's just two random plots going separately. I mean, you gotta hand it to them. The second part is really funny. I love that we get to see Jackson and Billy Ray try to, like, talk their way out of this snowstorm. They end up getting stuck with the guy from Malcolm in the Middle, and he actually has a dummy, which is horrifying. I hate when shows have a character have a wooden dummy. Like, it's definitely owned by Goosebumps, Night of the Living Dummy, and I don't know why we have to bring it to Disney Channel, you know? Anyway, overall, this episode is just a little off. I don't think it represents the show too well, so that's kind of where I'm coming to with this. Then, for the final episode, I really feel like let me down about this is On the Road Again, Season 1, Episode 12. And if you've seen my videos, you know I have an affinity for the Disney Channel crossovers. Like, I like watching them, just feel like they don't do a great job at putting out the fan service that they're promising. Kind of like when I put out a video and I say this is offensive and then I never talk about how it's offensive. Yeah, I'm Hannah Montana-ing you guys. But yeah, this is the third part in the That's So Sweet Life of Hannah Montana crossover event, and it's the one episode that ends up not bringing any of the other shows back, which is really frustrating. That's why I had to put it on this list. It was definitely a really big disappointment to see this episode be so counterintuitive to what I loved about Hannah Montana. Like, Hannah is barely at the Tipton, we see a little bit of Ashley Tisdale, and then the entire episode redirects to be about Robbie Ray, something that is not really fair. So yeah, I feel like that episode of Hannah Montana, I couldn't not talk about On the Road Again. The third part in the That's So Sweet Life of Hannah Montana video, where we start off at the Tipton, Miley and Ashley Tisdale get to have a cool conversation, but it becomes very quickly about Billy Ray. The whole episode ends up going back to the regular Hannah Montana set, so it's not really a crossover anymore, and just them dealing with their dad not being able to be famous anymore. Jackson and Miley kind of team up to give him that experience to go on stage and play once again, and he realizes that, hey, my love is at home with my family, and I'm like, I just want to see Raven-Symoné and Zack and Cody, and you guys are taking me on a trip that I did not want to go on. It feels like I'm traveling 6 hours to a wedding I didn't want to go to. Then we get to the second season, so stop blasting on Hannah Montana. I feel like just from this point forward, it's never as bad as that one. The second season of Hannah Montana gets a little redundant, where they kind of emphasize Miley in high school as opposed to middle school like the first season. Her stakes are a lot higher. Being a celebrity is a lot harder to pull off. She has to deal with her celebrity friends a lot more. Like Tracy, for example, like she's in this season a lot. Things feel a little bit more saturated and exaggerated. They really lean into the comedy this season, which is definitely a plus for me. I feel like every time like comedy is cleverly integrated, you've always got a Johnny 2000s vote. Like that's always the best kind of episodes. So this is season 2, episode 15, Song Sung Bad. And this one I kind of feel bad about because it's all of us making fun of Lily. Lily can't sing, and that's the premise of the episode. They have a school talent show, and Miley is essentially trying to break it to Lily that she's not a great singer, so she doesn't embarrass herself. But, instead of actually telling her the truth, Miley lies? Something she never does ever? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, she lies a lot, and in this episode it goes a little too far because it seems like she's like more worried about how she's gonna be perceived by Lily than she actually cares about her embarrassing herself, which is not super fair. It's definitely redirected away from Miley. That's maybe why I don't love the episode as much. I like that Amber and Ashley are back as the antagonists and serve as like the main ones for this episode. Like that's fun. It gets really funny at the very end when we see everybody, all the main cast, go up on stage and actually try singing themselves. Like, look at this. This is so funny.
So let's make it rock. Make it rock.
That's what you make it. So come on, everybody now.
La vida es como tú la haces, so let's make it rock.
Yeah, otherwise, it's a really good episode. It just feels off from the regular series. I think Miley's not coming from like a genuine place, and I think the plot that is used in this isn't very Hannah Montana friendly, but that's really all I have to say about it. The other episode I thought wasn't super great was season 2, episode 17, Don't Stop Till You Get the Phone. So we've seen this episode actually a couple times. There's like the episode where Miley is trying to get or use money. That's happened a couple times. So season 2, episode 17 is similar to that, where it's about her wanting the new O phone and kind of how far she's willing to go to get this new technology. Something that is kind of a shallow opportunity for her. Like it's not coming out of like a good place. It's more so coming out of like not wanting to fall behind socially. I mean, it makes sense. If you're Hannah Montana, you want to keep up with pop culture, especially since you borderline are pop culture, Miley. Like seeing her have to struggle with this regresses her character a lot, especially since it's happening at like the middle of season 2. I feel like she's a little bit better than this at this point. It goes way too far when we have our guest star in this episode, Mr. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Moral of the story, during the episode, Miley gets a picture of her secret being revealed, essentially. Everybody will know she's Hannah Montana if this picture is released. So there's a lot at stake, and that's really good for the episode. I think that's like one of my favorite parts of this episode, aside from Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's guest appearance. And she's willing to go really far in order to get this picture taken down to a point where she starts being rude to other people. It's so funny because it parodies that idea of like Spider-Man, like when Peter Parker worked at the Daily Bugle and he kept taking pictures of himself just to tell people. I love that Hannah Montana takes on that trope because it makes her seem more like a superhero. Like when I hear interviews about Miley or like the showrunners talking about this show, like they always talk about how like the wig is essentially a superhero mask. Somehow nobody recognizes Miley as this main character, and this takes the journalism aspect of that plot device and spins it on its head. And we see Miley actually go too far into this to a point where she ends up embarrassing the heck out of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson just so she can get away with it, but then realizes that she's her own monster. Yeah. Hannah Montana gets deep sometimes, and This is definitely a good episode. I feel like it's hard to find the episodes I don't like when I really like most of Hannah Montana. But I do feel like Miley can be a little too cynical in this. The fact that everything is stemmed from wanting this O-phone is not a great character, organic reason to do all the things she's doing. Like, it's one thing if she does it on behalf of Oliver or Lily or to make her dad happy, but she doesn't. It feels a little too selfish to be a better reason. And I feel like a lot of the jokes in this episode could have been a little bit more funnier. Like, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's only in a part of it when he could have done a little bit more, but having him be the one to actually stop the photographer from putting out the picture, I'm not even sure what that message shows. Like, oh, if you accidentally put out an embarrassing picture, you're supposed to hire Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson? I don't know if that's the angle they're going for, but I guess I'm gonna have to do that next time I have a bad comment on the internet. It's so funny because it's like not relevant, but at the same time, like, things are all like that now. Like, that was a more new thing back then to be so embarrassed by a post or a really embarrassing video and to think you can get rid of it. Now you can't get rid of anything like that. Doesn't matter who took the picture, it's ending up on the internet somehow. This episode did a good job at, like, kind of jumping ahead. It was definitely ahead of its time, but was it as good as the other episodes in the second season? No. The second season had like 30 episodes, and this one was one of the ones that I don't think needed to be there, so I'm not super happy about it, but I had to put something down, so thank you guys for listening to me on this one. So season 3 of Hannah Montana is where it kind of gets interesting. I would definitely describe this as the peak season. I think Hannah Montana was never better than it could have possibly been at season 3. It was right after the Hannah Montana movie. It was right when they're leaning into the most comedic situations they possibly could, and they were just throwing stuff at the wall at this point. Like, this is the Wizards on Deck with Hannah Montana season. This is the season with Lucas Cruikshank. This is the season that Miley moves out. There's a lot to like about season 3, but of course, with every good season, we need to focus on the bad episodes, because I am a glass half empty kind of guy. Now, I just brand myself that way. I'm not really like that. The weakest link in Hannah Montana season 3 has got to be episode 5, Killing Me Softly with His Height. And I'm not sure if you guys remember this episode or it rings a bell, but it's the episode where Miley meets this new guy. He's friends with Oliver, and her and Lily kind of debate of who gets him pretty quickly. You know, very 2000s trope with girls fighting over the guy. Miley ends up winning and falling for this guy until she realizes pretty quickly that he is short. And that's where I check out. I, too, am a short fella, and I get upset when that becomes like the central point of a plot line. Now I know how it feels like when they make weight jokes or like things that you can't control about yourself. Like, Hannah Montana really leans into it in this, and they've never done this before. Like, when has height been a super negative thing for the culture? I don't understand why it affects her so much. Like, this whole episode is her being insecure about being shallow or coming across shallow, and you could tell that almost everything she does in this is doubling down to not look bad. And it reminds me of a big publicity stunt, something that I think works really well within the realm of Hannah Montana. Like, she has this deep desire to be loved and liked, especially as half pop star, but she actually is not really Hannah Montana in this episode. The whole episode is about her and this guy. She ends up going on a date with him to prove that she's not shallow, but can't stop making fun of him the entire night. And they act like she's like a huge victim of it. They're like, oh my gosh, what if he gets a toy that's actually the same height as him? It just feels like it's going a little off the rails for no reason. She even has a flashback nightmare where she imagines herself as short, and I mean, that's a good moment for empathy. She's like, oh, that's how I would feel if somebody was making fun of me in that manner. But Miley, you're not even doing this for any good reason. You just feel self-conscious about the fact that he's too short. And it's so funny to think this is like the Christmas episode, essentially. Like, it's as close they get to a holiday episode where the guy that Miley likes just happens to be playing the elf in Santa's workshop. So it feels like the story came first as the Christmas episode, that they needed it to be Christmas, but it really didn't have to be. It's not about giving. It's not about anything holiday season related. It's just to make this kid dress up as an elf and look short. Not something I'm a super big fan of. Lily and Oliver don't really play a vital role in this. It's just more making her feel bad about it. It's just that the whole episode feels a little awkward to me. And season 3, like, when I said they throw stuff at the walls, they really do. Like, there's a whole episode where Miley goes on a cooking show and has to avoid breaking her teeth. Like, that's a good example of they were just having fun. And I really like that for the most part. Like, I liked that episode. There's a reason I didn't name it here. But there's also some really negative episodes. Like, for example, Season 3, Episode 20, the third part, once again, in a 3-part crossover special in which Hannah Montana disappointed. Yeah, from On the Road Again in Season 1, Episode 12, now Episode 20, we have Superstitious Girl, and it's actually doing a lot better than the first episode did at being a crossover. I mean, for instance, she's actually on the Tipton boat this entire episode, as opposed to the first 5 minutes. She has interactions with Mr. Mosby, Lily, her dad. Like, it's a lot of the elements of the Hannah Montana episode. It just feels like the background's changed. That's why it's good, but it's not great. It's them in a hotel. This could have been done in any setting. I don't know why Hannah Montana specifically had to do this plot line, but it is cool to see that Hannah is superstitious. Miley is barely in the episode. It's mostly Hannah, which I kind of like. That's a nice change of pace. And then they subtly weave in the characters from Sweet Life on Deck, but not enough to make a difference. Miley's looking for her mother's anklet this whole episode because she's worried that she's going to have really bad luck at this concert in Hawaii if she doesn't have that anklet. Lily is no help, just being the comedic relief the whole time. And the part that bothers me the most about this episode is the B-plot being about Oliver, Jackson, and Rico opening a package. Like, you're doing a full-on crossover episode, and you're telling me these guys are only worried about opening a package? It's just such a waste of time when you think about it, so I was just kind of annoyed at that whole concept. Otherwise, though, it's a really decent follow-up. I love that we get Miley and London interacting. It's something I really wish would have happened in that first 3-part episode, but I guess I'm glad to have it now. Rico, Jackson, and Oliver just make it horrible because it's like, I feel so bad that they weren't allowed to meet the rest of the cast. Miley never got to meet Selena. They like very carefully worked around them being in the same episode, and it ends on a 3-minute musical number that doesn't have anything to do with the Sweet Life on Deck cast. I don't know how to bash this episode harder because it's just so annoying to think that our expectations were so high for this to go so well. I think Robbie plays a funny role in this. He's seasick the entire episode, and seeing him not go anywhere is just a funny gag. Like, even using the porthole to throw up in was a good bit. Miley losing her wig was a really funny bit. I wish we had a whole episode about that, but the fact that it kind of jumps back to being a structure that Hannah Montana is familiar with is great. I think it's just the context. The context of the expectations of a 3-part crossover are not being met. So yeah, that's like one of the episodes I really felt like didn't represent season 3 so well. Kind of made the whole series look a little worse. But not worse than On the Road Again, so I guess fine. I guess that's just how it goes. And then I kind of have to point to episode 26, Come Fail Away. This is the episode with Lucas Cruikshank, the guy who plays Fred. And I talked about this episode in my Fred video. You should definitely check it out. But the whole premise is that Miley is up for a cartoon role. Something that I think is a really, really interesting idea to read about. In execution, they could have done better. So in the episode, Miley's getting the part of a duck in an animated cartoon, something that was really common in the 2000s, 2010s, even till this day. It's cool to have celebrities portray new characters in newer movies. It makes you actually want to see it. I know the Smurfs have redone themselves like 4 times, and I'm getting a little tired of that, but I guess you'll save that for my revivals video. Miley can't get her character right because she wants to be the best voice actor after her first time of doing it. Sure, she's like a pop star, but she wants to be good at this too, and her insecurities in this episode is trying to be like the best voice actor she can be. Not a bad plot, but it is kind of annoying that it doesn't have anything to do with being a pop star, anything to do with being a teenage girl. It's just kind of making fun of Hollywood just long enough to be ridiculous. In the episode, Miley tries to get into her character by adopting a duck and learning how it works. So it's just her flapping her wings around the house, and Robbie is like, okay, this is getting sad. See, even Robbie realizes the third season has gone too far with this episode. It's at the tail end. Like, there's only 30 episodes in this season, so the fact that it's like toward episode 26, 27, it makes me think that they're just running out of ideas. Overall, like, there's some good jokes, and the fact that Lucas Cruikshank is in it is great, but why do we need to go here? This is not something a part of Miley's journey that I necessarily needed to know about. Looking back, I wish there was more things they covered that were different within the same realm, but this feels a little too out of character. Robbie's role in it as like kind of mentoring Miley to doing it and not giving up is really inspirational. I feel like Miley tries really hard in this episode to make this work, and that's something you have to admire. Like, she's a really hard worker despite the fact that she has diva-like tendencies, and seeing her like not be able to get it right just kind of makes you feel bad for her. Even up until the end, I don't think she can fully get it. It doesn't have like a great ending. It just bothers me that Lucas Cruikshank is in it so much, but not necessarily a big part of the episode. He could have done a lot more here, but the writers kind of limited this to the studio and Miley at school, and then learning from this duck, something that I don't think we needed to get in the Hannah Montana canon before the series ended. Yeah, like originally they said the third season might have been the last, so the fact that this would have been one of the last episodes, it really bothers me. I don't think that like comes into my judgment of it though. I don't think that's what makes it so bad. I think it just has comically unnecessary moments where it felt like maybe like a comedy writer tried to write this episode and make it just be one of the funnier ones, but it didn't necessarily get to that point. Miley just keeps failing and trying to follow Billy Ray, but nothing is availed. In the B plot, we have Jackson actually trying to be a responsible adult, something that happens really often. It's very much him proving to his dad that he needs independence, but it's actually kind of funny because it's about Robbie texting and giving Jackson boundaries. He like doesn't know how to do it. He just texts and texts, and it's so funny watching an old man assume they know how to text. Like, I don't know why. It's just, I picture my dad being on the phone and being like, LOL, okay, haha. You know, like, they don't know how to do that. So Jackson's dealing with it is the funniest part. The fact he's so old for this part, he's like 30 at this episode. I feel like Robbie's only like 20 years older than him. That's weird to think about when you think about it. But yeah, overall, crazy episode. I wish Oliver was in it a little bit more. He's like barely in this. But Hannah Montana season 3, they went there. And I'm not sure if they liked going there, but they did. So yeah, Come Fail Away, that is definitely one of the worst ones. Then we have Hannah Montana Forever. So this is the 4th season. It's only 13 episodes this time around, and I put a lot of love into my final video for this show. I mean, I started this channel talking about this show specifically, and I had a lot of fun actually diving into all of these last episodes. Like, I take a really deep, intimate dive into how everybody progressed throughout the show and ends up by the end of the series, so definitely give that a look. But I do want to highlight some of the episodes that I thought were the worst and most unnecessary of this season. So they're on a ranch now. They're not at the usual locations they used to. It feels kind of like a reboot type revival setup where a lot's changed, but nothing is like completely altered, I guess. Like, the relationships are intact. Rico still works down at the boardwalk. A lot of things are similar, but there's a lot of things different. I think season 4, episode 3 is when things kind of got off the rails. This entire season is kind of about Miley and how she reveals her secret to the rest of the world. Something that I feel like they could have easily done in season 1, but they took their time to really develop her as a character, have funny episodes, have a lot of thoughtful things happen. Like, if this were current day, this would probably be the first season of Hannah Montana. You know, like her revealing the secret, dealing with the aftermath of it. And I'm glad that we actually got to have a slow burn when it came to it in this show. So I feel like the worst episodes in this season were things that didn't contribute to the slow burn, but made everything a lot longer and more of a drag. Something I hate to see when TV shows do. Like, don't waste my time like this, especially considering all these seasons of Hannah Montana before were gold. Like, there's a new high standard that now that they're in this new place, that they won't have as many good episodes. So I'm really rooting for this show to keep the energy of the original 3 seasons while also still being worth the watch. California Screamin' is not that. I feel like this is a Robbie-centric episode, Miley trying to make him happy and actually get him to date again. She thinks that Robbie is way too lonely and almost like borderline depressed, which is
I feel like it reminds me of a Victorious episode where their teacher Psychowitz was sad, and then they just like looked back on his life and he got even more sad. But Miley and Hannah Montana take a less cynical approach and are a little bit more fun with it. We've had episodes where Miley tried to hook up her dad in the past, but never quite worked out. And this time is not an exception. It feels like a very repeated episode where we don't get anything new. We just see Robbie acting a little bit ridiculous, very boomer energy, and there's a reason he's not dating, because he's not self-conscious about who he is. He likes being himself, he's happy with his new life, and Miley just can't get that. She has to meddle. So even as Hannah Montana, she's like, Jackson, we have to do something about this. Jackson obviously doesn't like to play a big part in it, so Lily is kind of her duo partner in this episode. And it's really funny. They want to hook Robbie up with the school nurse, so Miley actually pours ice down Lily's back to get her attention, and Robbie has to show up. The two actually do connect and start dating, which is crazy. Miley actually makes this work out. I feel like the writers were like, oh, as long as it works out this time, that's different enough of an episode than the last time. And I'm like, guys, the Robbie dating episodes don't need to happen that many times. Like, I like it when we see that he used to be a rock star, and now it's like, it's just his personal life? Like, I don't need to hear about all that. The jokes in it weren't even that interesting is the problem for me. It's just about Miley getting these people together, and I feel like the plot doesn't really happen until like the second half of the episode. Miley's really self-conscious about Robbie being too much of himself, that he pushes away a potential partner, something that I think a lot of like younger kids would imagine. Like, they just want their parents to be happy, so they try to get involved in their love life, and this just goes a little too far. The plot kind of kicks in a lot more halfway through when Miley is worried that her dad is going to embarrassingly scream on the roller coaster. That's why the episode's called California Screamin'. So it's Miley essentially trying to get her dad to not be himself on this roller coaster in front of this girl. And her dad ends up having to have a talk with her and be like, hey, somebody's got to love me for me, Miley. And it's like, whoa, that's kind of depressing that she thought that that wasn't possible up until this point. All around, like, an episode that just felt like it was so unnecessary, with the precious 13 episodes of the final season, like, wrapping up this whole story, and then we're wasting one on this. Like, I don't need to see Robbie Ray be embarrassed to scream. That's not interesting to me at all. Then one of the last worst ones, I feel like, for me, is Love That Let's Go. So this episode, it's not that bad. I feel like I was looking back and I was like, okay, like, I definitely like it better than I thought I did. But it's like about Miley and Lily's relationship. Miley lies to Lily. If she can get to the top of the rope in gym class, Lily will ride a horse, like Blue Jeans. So we dive a lot into Miley's ancestry, and it takes a little bit of a break from the Hannah Montana persona, something that we definitely needed in this season because it's just so focused on the diva life that it's like not even working. Miley goes so far as to hire a full-on stunt crew to make it look like she did this thing to get Lily on the horse. Like, that is full-on coercion? I don't even know how to define that, guys. Put it in the comments. But yeah, horrible episode for Miley. Really didn't do good on her, and I hate when they make the main character look like a terrible person just for the fact they need a plot to happen. Like, Lily ends up breaking her leg, and most of the rest of the episode, you think it's about Miley taking care of her, but she's actually really reckless with Lily, like bumping her into different things, like poor Lily in a wheelchair just trying to survive, and then the entire episode shifts to being more so about Blue Jeans being sick. So we forget about the fact that Miley just took advantage of her friend just to have a better time horse riding herself, and now we're worried about this horse. I mean, your best friend was just in the hospital, and now Blue Jeans? I feel like they just want to connect it to Miley's home life, but it didn't do such a great job. And again, with only 13 episodes this season, it's really easy to do it the wrong way. It's nice that we get Noah Cyrus at the very end, and we see like American Humane, no animals were harmed copyright at the end, which I forgot they even did at one point, but that's kind of cool. Overall, like, it's barely a funny episode, it's barely character development, it just feels like it's taking a step back in what Hannah Montana really represented. So yeah, overall, season 1 through 4 of Hannah Montana, they definitely had some episodes that weren't perfect, but if I had to compare them to any other show like the Dan Schneider shows, iCarly, Victorious, this one is at least in good faith. Hannah Montana did a great job at juggling the double life of Miley Cyrus, all the flaws she went through, while being hilarious in the process. I feel like Disney Channel shows are usually good at being well written, they just have a tendency to not be as funny or entertaining. But Hannah Montana did everything in the world, and it did it so well, so it's so hard to find these pokes and flaws in it, but I'm so glad we got to actually talk about it here today. Like, I hope you guys don't not watch these episodes because of this, because they're really good episodes. I feel like they are definitely off kilter and taking away what made Hannah Montana so great. But what did you guys think? Is there worse episodes of Hannah Montana for you? I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments, like what characters didn't you like? I'm curious. For me, I really didn't like Jackson's new girlfriend in the last season. I feel like Sienna was just like so random, but we'll save that for a whole other video.
I've had enough of these snakes on my boat!
The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody is one of my core memories, one of the best nostalgia factors of the 2000s. And even though we had the Sweet Life on deck, I'm gonna pretend like we had a complete awesome franchise here. Yeah, I know, we didn't, okay? I'm trying to just make it work for you. So Sweet Life of Zack and Cody is the first part of a 2-part series. Sweet Life of Zack and Cody is about these 2 blonde twins that hang out around the Tipton Hotel, famous hotel in Boston. There's Maddie and London, who are this rich and poor girl that also are involved in the general zeitgeist of the Tipton. And Mr. Mosby, the neurotic hotel manager, who kind of fights against Zack and Cody's mom a lot of the time because of all the hijinks they get into. It's a lot of fun. Some of the best parts of this show are Zack and Cody's manipulation tactics, how immature they come across, how kind of the adult world and the child world kind of clash a lot of times. And there's not a lot of bad episodes, honestly. At worst, it's boring, but at best, it's a really exciting show. And I'm gonna go through each of the seasons, tell you kind of the weaker episodes, the ones that essentially almost took me out of this whole watch. So sit down and get comfortable as Johnny 2000 welcomes you to the Sweet Life of Zack and Cody franchise. So one of the episodes in the first season that I felt like really didn't do the show much justice is season 1, episode 20. It's called Christmas at the Tipton. So this episode is a Christmas episode. Weird, because I don't usually choose episodes that are supposed to be holiday themed, but there's just something about this specific one that kind of got a little bit boring. Basically, it's Christmas at the Tipton, and Zack and Cody's dad shows up. There's a lot of conflict between the dad and Carrie, but it's one of the parts of the show that I do respect the most, like having the divorced parents, kind of diving into that world and the experience of Zack and Cody through that. That's something another Disney show didn't do a lot of. The episode very quickly is about a storm coming to the Tipton and nobody is able to come or go. So everybody's kind of trapped in the same place. A stuck episode. If you know me or seen other videos on my channel, I don't usually like stuck episodes. They're like usually bottle episodes, and this one particularly isn't super fun because it's not necessarily about Christmas, it's about the snowstorm, and a lot of the conflict centers around Zack and Cody trying to get their parents back together, and Mr. Mosby and Arwen trying to keep the Tipton safe. Like, it's a lot of normal stuff that I feel like the show is known for, and really good for. It's just this episode feels like there's way too much going on, and none of the plots, like, interact in a way that's, like, meaningful to me. I feel like having something like Christmas themed, you kind of are set with that expectation that there's something exciting about to go down, but it just ends up them being in the lobby most of the episode. It's just a down point for the first season, something that, a rare moment that I felt like this is not something I'm enjoying as much as the rest of the show. It's not to say that it's a really bad episode, it's just to say that one of the best seasons of television's it's kind of mid. Zack and Cody do have a lot of funny moments, along with Maddie and London, which really keeps the show thriving. But it's really the focus on the parents that kind of bore me a little bit. You kind of know they're not going to be getting back together. It's like established pretty early, so seeing Zack and Cody try so hard to get them back together is almost sad because, you know, like the dad's flirting with other people that tipped in. It's not a great light. They get trapped in the elevator at one point, though, which I find super interesting. I feel like if that was, like, the center point of the episode from the get-go, that would be necessary, not to become more about this couple at the Tipton that can't have their baby. Like, the real stakes almost overshadow the characters we know and love, and this special just doesn't really do it for me. It's not the worst episode, but it definitely doesn't represent it. If we had to choose an episode that wasn't Christmas-related, though, I would definitely say It's a Mad, Mad, Mad Hotel. This is season 1, episode 12. I didn't love this episode. I felt like it could have had like a great payoff if it was really about finding treasure that mattered. Let me backtrack. So this episode is about them finding out that there's treasure hidden within the hotel. So Zack, Cody, Maddie, and London, all the characters kind of get on board with the same idea that, like, if they find this treasure, their entire lives will change. It's a really entertaining premise, and seeing everybody's little moments of fantasy of what they would do if they got the treasure is priceless. One of the funniest concepts, but still, like I said, like, it's just because it's not as funny compared to the other episodes. Esteban and Carrie together, which just feels out of the blue. Like, the out-of-character fantasies are the only parts that bothered me so much, like having Maddie play younger Muriel. Muriel is the centerpiece of this episode with her ex-lover knowing where the map is, knowing where the treasure is, so she's kind of like an important part of it and super unhelpful when it comes down to it. I'm not sure if you guys remember, but a part of contention for me in the first series is you never realize that Muriel left until the third season when she comes back and she's a lot older. I wish they gave her like a proper send-off in the show, but that never happened. I feel like if the characters were playing themselves as opposed to past characters in this woman's life, I would have been more interested, but unfortunately the episode kind of loses me in that context. We don't feel like there's characters actually going through something, although they could have. Like, you could have had Zack and Cody and Maddie like have a consequence for not getting this treasure, pushing them to actually want to get it, but the fact that it's coming all out of like their own selfish greed is annoying, and we could have learned a little bit more about them but in the process, but that didn't happen. It's just everybody kind of doing their worst character things in order to get this treasure. London is even more selfish because she wants the treasure too, and it's like, you're rich, London, why do you need the treasure? Inevitably at the end they find out that the treasure is like hidden in the heart of the Tipton, but they just end up accidentally breaking into a bank, so the episode doesn't have like a nice payoff. All of the fantasies are never justified, so it doesn't really work out in the end. Yeah, not a fun representation of the show. I feel like the Christmas at the Tipton and this episode in particular are bad representations of it. Like, if you saw these episodes for the first time, I could see you not want to watch the show, and it's a good show. Like, it's totally worth watching, so please don't judge it by these episodes, you know? Then we get to the second season, which the episodes don't get bad, they just get kind of boring. Like, for example, like, I just went over all of these in my complete second season video. There's 39 episodes. Ugh. Can you imagine having to watch 39 episodes to do a single video? Like, it was very annoying. So the worst part of this season is when they have these moments that get a little bit more boring, where they're repeating storylines, but the concepts of the new episodes are not getting more interesting. They're just kind of rehashes and less funny than their original. For example, Books and Birdhouses, Season 2, Episode 9. So in this episode, it's about Zack, instead of Cody, becoming the class pet. And Cody's not used to this, so they have a lot of conflicts between each other. Cody ends up not doing well in the class, so Zack offers to tutor him. And we see this really negative side of Cody that, like, it's one thing to be smart and to, like, sometimes feel like you're better than everybody else, but to double down in the way Cody does in this episode is a little out of character. The jokes were a lot funnier. If we cared about what was going on, I feel like that would matter more, but it's like the whole episode takes place with the woodshop class and the teacher not really respecting Cody having an ego. In the end, Zack ends up being the bigger person and gives him his final project just so Cody doesn't fail. And that's very sweet. Like, it's a very Zack sweet episode, but it's not like done in a fun way. It's just like one of those sitcom tropes where you bring in a new class just for the episode, just to give them a conflict. It just reeks of not genuine. It's good to know that we have like a Zack positive episode. I wish I could have said it was the best Zack positive episode. Like, they've had better episodes. Honestly, it's kind of weird to think about, but the other boring episode is also a Zack-centric episode. The Boston Tea Party, Season 2, Episode 17. This one is kind of like that first season episode, Mad Mad World, where they're seeing flashbacks of things that don't involve them. Yeah, so it's basically the park that Zack and Cody know and love is about to be taken down, and Zack is the least interested in this fact. Like, everybody else feels like it's an injustice and something's going wrong with the park, but Zack is like, no, it's not really anything to worry about, which is kind of depressing. It's like he's like kind of an anti-hero in this episode, and he doesn't want to learn about history. He's like too bothered to do anything about this. So it's rooting for a character that doesn't necessarily have like good intentions. Cody's really funny in this episode though, because he he's like trying to write a letter to the government essentially to try to get this to stop. And it's very sweet. Like, it's funny and sweet at the same time, not just like him trying to be an environmental nerd and like aggressively attacking people for that. Like, this one actually has him being pretty funny. The episode is mainly a rehash of the Boston Tea Party, with each of the main characters taking on different roles that would have happened back in that age. Like, London is the rich character, Esteban and Arwen are the only people that could vote because women couldn't vote at that time. That's a funny concept, though. Like, to imagine that, like, the only guys that are capable of voting are those two. Like, what in the world? The costumes are interesting, sure, but they, like, take me out of the things I used to love about the Tipton. It doesn't even look like this is, like, a rehash of the lobby. It's, like, a whole new place that doesn't have anything to do with the show. Yeah, I feel like if they made this more of a character development thing and had actual stakes for the characters to worry about, more than the park, or at least remind us of the park, it would have been more interesting. But it's a Zack-centric episode about everybody else that doesn't really feel like it coincides in a great way. If anything, it's weird because the very end, the exact moment about the Boston Tea Party that is known for, is just skipped over. Like, we just have all the characters come back and be like, yep, Boston Tea Party's over, I guess that was crazy. And then that's it. Like, why did it have to end there? Yeah, so we get back to reality, and it's not even fun. It's them protesting this tree. They're, like, all sitting on a blanket when the bulldozer comes, and Mosby ends up being the one to save the day. That's where the action actually gets cool. I just wish we were reminded more through the episode that this is what they were fighting for, and not just an awkward amount of jokes to recreate this old thing in history. Yeah, like I said, the worst part of the Sweet Life of Zack and Cody is when it just gets plain old boring. That's exactly what I feel like this episode was for me, just like a boring episode. Not that bad, but not that fun, you know? Birdman of Boston, Season 2, Episode 28, is also a boring episode, in my opinion. It's an episode where a baby falcon hatches at the Tipton, and Cody kind of takes it under his assumption to take care of it. So it's like kind of like a Cody-centric episode. This one's just boring too. Like, it's just Cody acting like he's going to be the mother of this baby. And I like that. I'm like, okay, cool, this is going to be hilarious, but they don't really do a lot of jokes about it. It becomes a lot more about advocacy again, with Maddie defending the rights of these animals and how the Boston Zoo isn't necessarily going to take care of them. But it's not like the writers are doing anything about it. It's not like there's like a message at the end. It's just the same exact premise as like the Boston Tea Party, like Mosby's the villain, Zack and Cody are the ones trying to keep everything in order, but Zack is explicitly trying to turn this into a money deal. He tries to take videos of Cody having this bird, and it doesn't even lead to anything. So all around, this episode is also a bad representation. I feel like they could have had funnier arguments, Zack and Cody. It could have been a little bit more about Cody and trying to be a mother, but it just ends up being about like Maddie fighting for the Tipton and Mosby, and nobody really feels justified in this episode, or like anything really paid off, unfortunately. So this one's kind of a miss for me. I feel like you wouldn't like it if you remember loving this show. And then Season 3 is the final season of Zack and Cody. It definitely kind of got a little bit more serialized, with Cody and Zack both getting jobs. They were committing a lot to ideas that didn't necessarily work in the past, and they're hoping they work this time. That's why Season 3 is kind of annoying. For me, I feel like the most annoying episode in general is the Super Twins episode. It just veers off way too unrealistically into like this fantasy world where everybody has superpowers. Arwen, Esteban, they all are evil villains with Mosby, and then Cody and Zack are the heroes. Their powers aren't that interesting or super reflective of who they are. It feels like a lot of awkward jokes. I mean, it's tied into this whole Wish Upon a Star special. Not sure if you guys remember that Disney Channel did this whole event where like there's a wishing star and all the characters have one episode to pretty much go haywire, which Zack and Cody have done in the past. They've gone haywire anyway. Why do you need to make it a star? Hannah Montana did this, Corey in the House did this, and Sweet Life did this. It's kind of like the Boston Tea Party, the Mad Mad World, where they have these fantasy cutaways, but this entire episode is the fantasy cutaway. Sure, it does good because it's actually the characters going through something. Mosby is himself, Cody and Zack are themselves, and it's about them trying to like fit into the adult world, which really doesn't want them anyway. Kind of sad. It gets a little too cheesy, a little unrealistic, realistic, and to think these events are the ones that would be canon in the Sweet Life universe is almost kind of ridiculous. Sure, Mosby is born to play an evil villain. Like, this is his acting debut, okay? Well, that's kind of insulting. You know what I mean. You know, it's a fun episode, but it's only fun, and I feel like watching it again, it just confuses me about this whole quality of the show. Like, it's not working if this is the best they got. There's so many episodes you can do in this concept, with the Tipton being the main place and all these characters, but this is not an action show. It's not a superhero show. I don't know why they tried so hard to make it work. I wish there was just like any other dream they gave the twins. Yeah, I'm just very disappointed. But not more disappointed in the actual worst episode of this season, which is also the worst episode of the entire show, the series finale. It's Mr. Tipton Comes to Visit, and if you saw my Disney finales video, you'll know that it's all because it's a clip show. It's just a clip show. I can't believe you take one final attempt at being able to send us off of the Tipton in a fair way, but instead they just have a clip show. It's all the employees thinking that they're going to be fired, essentially, having a clip show of all of them defending themselves on why they shouldn't be fired, and it's all moments from this show being rehashed and resurfaced, and it's really annoying. I feel like it would have been really funny if we got moments that we never got to see in the Tipton experiences, but it seemed like they were so focused on Sweet Life on Deck that they didn't even care of wrapping up the first half of this franchise. Like, guys, this is the prime of the show, and they didn't even take the time to put a cap on it in a meaningful way, especially for the people that grew up watching it. It's not really fair that they had to do it this way. Maddie is a lot less present in this season, which is also a part of its downfall, but if you thought that this franchise had a downfall, it's definitely not this first series. It's what's next. So yeah, this is Rosie. She is my partner in YouTube. She manages the channel. She gets in a lot of fights with people on the internet, so just be cautious. It's just hard, because Sweet Life on Deck all around is offensive to exist. It feels like a lazy, broken down version of the Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, honestly. Later on in the series, you'll see how really bad it gets when there becomes a lot of genre shift, character ads and takeaways, just a lack of what made the original show so charming. It just kind of all falls apart with this series. I'm not sure if you guys seen my Sweet Life Season 4 recap. I made a whole video assuming that the Sweet Life on Deck is shrunken down to be the 4th season of Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, which is kind of an interesting concept. Check that out. But here we're just going to talk about the episodes I find the most insane. There was a lot of really good moments for the Sweet Life on Deck. Like, I felt like I was in from the get-go, like jumping to a cruise to be the new setting. Like, that's very unique. It's very interesting. And for me, I'm like, it must be not hard to take the magic and essence of Sweet Life and put it on deck. Gosh, was I wrong. I didn't realize how hard it would be, because it really didn't work out. I mean, credits to the writers for trying to make it work out, but I wasn't a big fan of this. I feel like the characters that they added and took away almost fought with the vibe of the original characters, making the entire show almost like compete with itself. The conflicts just felt a little bit fewer and far between to just go with what they thought the Sweet Life was supposed to be. A lot of it just didn't work for me. So let's jump into all the most offensive episodes that I swore were a waste of my time to even watch. Okay, so one of them is It's All Greek to Me, Season 1, Episode 7. So this one is actually cool because it's about to be canon to The Sweet Life, because it has Arwen in it. The actor, Brian Stepanek, plays Arwen. He's in this, but he just doesn't play Arwen. He plays a new character that is named Milos, and this entire episode is an insult to me because I was so close to getting my reprise of Arwen, and it didn't come soon enough. It didn't happen until Season 3, actually. So this episode was kind of like a big disappointment. When I thought The Sweet Life was getting on track with its original characters and its like quirky nature, it felt like this episode just kind of like smacked me in the face. Cody and Bailey are really not fun to watch in this episode. I feel like a lot of unnecessary stuff happens with them, and it's not even like the main part of it. And then we got this whole aspect of The Sweet Life loves to do like historical like episode ideas where like they're in a museum or it's back in time at like an old tea party. Like, that is so ridiculous to me. It would be cool if they actually made it in a hilarious way, but they do it in kind of a plotty way where it's like they don't really have a story in mind, so they have the characters act how they would in that. Yeah, Bailey and Cody are annoying in this because the whole first season is like Cody chasing after Bailey, and she does not look interested the whole time. It kind of reminds me of Zoe 101 when Chase and Zoe were on again, off again. That's kind of what Cody and Bailey are like here. She takes a shining toward the guy at the museum, which is not that surprising. The surprising part about it is she clearly is capable of liking somebody and being interested in somebody, so Cody, this doesn't look like you at all. And she doesn't act this way toward you, so if I were you, I don't know why your relationship would work out ever. So then this becomes a new plot about Milos, essentially, this character we've never met and will never see again. It'd be one thing if we saw him again. He was a recurring character, but he's not. And he suggests that Cody gets her the souvenir replica of the Amulet of Aphrodite. Already a Wizards of Waverly Place plot, if you ask me. Yeah, they find out it's the real amulet, chaos ensues, and it's too late. Bailey ends up wearing this thing. And, you know, Cody has to pretty much break it to her. It's just a bunch of crazy stuff going on, and I can't even believe this show even exists. Oh, and then there's like a B-plot of London having to do a speech, Mr. Mosby and Miss Tutwiler trying to guide her through it. It's cool to know that this is like when the relationships are established, like Miss Tutwiler is more so a parental figure like Mr. Mosby. It took him a while to get to this point, but it feels like it got solidified here, the chemistry between all of them. London having to not take this school on boat seriously is consistent. It makes her a hard to like character because she's just so defiant toward everything. It's one thing to be snotty and rich, but this is just like her just acting like a spoiled brat for the sake of being a spoiled brat. And it's funny to see Tutwiler and Mosby like be in this dream and be essentially the old Greek gods or whatever. It's a little too cheesy for reality. Like I said, it feels like a Wizards of Waverly Place thing. And Zack and Cody end up sneaking into this museum dressed as these white characters. Actually, the heist idea, like them sneaking in just to put it back, is kind of a funny concept. Getting the entire party be involved in this like huge dance party is funny, but all around kind of a waste of an episode. And we do get to see Arwen at the end, which is like kind of okay, but I really wish he could have reacted to any of the other cast members and not just himself at the other side of the webcam. Hello, Zoom? Yeah, but it's cool that he still has the Carrie mannequin, but all around, kind of a waste of an episode. I feel like I was really hoping for more. Okay, and then a really close follow-up to one of the worst episodes in the season is Splash and Trash. It's one of those concepts that they did in the original series where Cody gets like this huge environmental complex and he's like, I have to do everything for the sake of the environment, which only comes in the episode centered around it. Like, I feel like it's not following Cody through his day-to-day life until he feels like something gets really important about it. In this episode, he's kind of using the entire cruise against everybody to prove that nobody is following the rules of the environment, I guess. He creates this giant trash monster on the boat. He collects everybody's trash, puts it all together just to show them and prove a point. And this is like the 6th or 7th episode where Cody does something like this for the environment, and it's getting a little bit too intense. Like, it's one thing to not have Bailey be involved, and like usually that's his plot, but this time it's going back to the worst aspect of him from the original series. Like, we don't need to see this side of Cody all the time. You're on a boat. It feels like he's almost like hijacking it and making everybody uncomfortable just for the sake of uncomfortableness. Like, I'm all for helping the environment and preventing global warming, but this is essentially him torturing everybody the entire episode. I don't need to see it happen. And of course, the A-plot is the main event. Zack believes that this girl he likes is a actual mermaid, a physical mermaid. Definitely something that would be in a Wizards of Waverly Place episode. I guess that's just the era that Disney thought would be funny, and since that was successful, maybe that's why they did it. But it is kind of ridiculous that Zack could genuinely believe this woman is a fish. Like, sure, there's a lot of misunderstandings. We've got a lot of funny moments of, like, Woody and Zack sneaking onto the sky deck at night. Like, you gotta like the heist stuff. I like it when Zack and Cody leans into that, whether it's the first series or this series. It gets a little too outlandish. This girl they essentially save onto the ship. Zack is just not worried about her mental well-being. He just wants to date her. And both Zack and Cody look like bad people in this episode. And this whole relationship with him and this girl feels very inauthentic. It feels like he desperately does not like want to be with her, and it's just because of the fact she's pretty and he's just trying to make it work. And it's just a bunch of hints. The whole episode just has escalating hints that this girl might be a mermaid, and that's supposed to be the comedy of it all, but there's not a lot of jokes. It doesn't really come across as super funny, and it culminates in this giant fantasy where Zack imagines them being together, but he would have to live underwater. And that's not even funny either. It's like a funny concept, but in practicality, it just sounds like he's gonna have a loveless marriage if he's with her. I don't understand why we even had to dive into that. You didn't ask me. The first season of Sweet Life on Deck did not live up to the expectations, even if they kind of convinced me for like a couple minutes they did. We're gonna get into the next couple seasons, and this is where it just gets insulting. Season 2, episode 6, Family Ties, is a really offensive Sweet Life on Deck episode, so it was almost impossible to not acknowledge this. It's called Family Ties, but ties is spelled T-H-A-I-S. And yeah, it's essentially making fun of a whole culture in a nutshell. I've seen this covered in other YouTube videos, so I didn't want to get like super into it, but essentially the premise is London and Maddie are going to visit London's grandmother. She turns out not to be rich, but more on that in a moment. The whole B-plot is Cody walking around sad that Bailey's gone, because they just started dating and I guess he's insecure, so he's making a bunch of video vlogs to talk to her in kind of like a Good Luck Charlie way, but if it weren't sweet or to anybody who cared. Yeah, so he's just going around the boat being pitiful this entire time, and here we have a London and Bailey episode essentially. And if this was funny as like a Maddie and London episode, I feel like this would have a lot more meaning. Like maybe the friendship would be a deeper connection, but it's just Bailey being by London's side as a bunch of hijinks happen, somebody for London to complain to, and essentially be culturally inappropriate toward. So yeah, London is visiting her grandmother, and it just happens to be her being the opposite of her morals completely. Like she lives out in the woods with this bamboo, and they make up a bunch of reasons for survival. It's kind of depressing though, because like London thinking that her grandmother would be super rich and not necessarily loving her after it makes me harder on her as a character. I feel like we had like intermittent moments where London has actually been like a good person or really cares for the people that aren't rich, but they seem to be doubling down on this episode and making her super apathetic to somebody who she considered her family. But she discovers that she's a farmer, and London screams in horror. It's so stupid though, because Cody's plotline culminates in everybody thinking that he had a girl dog. It's interesting because this episode actually mirrors Twins at the Tipton, that old episode from the original show where Zack ropes a reluctant Cody into a double date, and he's just like upset over his pet, and the girls end up falling for him. That's kind of what happens to him in this episode. But yeah, the offensiveness with London's expectations to her grandmother escalates as she ends up like in the mud, trying to clean herself off. Like, it's just her mocking her grandmother the whole time. And in this situation, it's almost like we're following London as it's a part of a culture we don't really understand. Like, we have preconceived notions about it. So when things get worse and worse for London, we start not feeling bad for her after a while, because we're like, okay, why couldn't she even like open her brain up for a second just to like care about her? I mean, in the end, they do have like this kumbaya moment where she comes to accept her grandmother for who she is and that she still loves her, but this woman never comes back. It never seems to matter in the long run. It's not like a huge step in London's character development. I really wish I got like a little more insight on Mr. Tipton throughout an episode like this, or even Mr. Mosby. Like, he could have provided a lot more insight. I feel like Mosby and London have a really good connection when they come together, you know, and I feel like we didn't even get that. But honestly, it's not as bad as this other one. There's an episode called Any Given Fantasy, Season 2, Episode 17, and this one crosses a line with me because it's about sports. And it's not even like completely about sports, it's just enough to get me uninterested, and they don't even like commit to the characters actually getting good at this. So like by the end, I'm very much like, I know none of these elements are gonna have any longevity considering these guys are on a boat the whole time. So like, why even get involved in this? But let's at least go over it. So if you don't remember, a couple episodes earlier, Doc Shaw entered the cast in this season. His name's Marcus, and he was this famous guy named Lil Little, a rapper. And in this episode, Zack, Cody, Woody, and Marcus are all playing football. They're forbidden from playing it on the boat, which is super logical. It's fair that Mr. Mosby gets mad. Like, I don't know what they would expect from an experience like this. So the boys, except for Cody, start a fantasy football league with the award being that trophy that they stole from Mosby. So London hears that all this is going on, and she's excited to choose the cute guys, which is crazy. There's no world where somebody this rich would be into something like this. I feel like it wouldn't make any sense. They don't want to include London, so it's kind of hard for her to jump in. She chooses Kurt Warner as her quarterback, and Zack is tricking her into trading him by saying that she could have Brad Pitt instead. And when Marcus finds that out, he attacks Zack and pretty much insults him. So it becomes like taking this fantasy football league to the next level. When Cody explains to Kirby that the friends are excluding him because he's not physically inclined, that's where it gets intense. So once Kirby finds out that Cody isn't involved in this, he almost feels bad for him. It's because Cody obviously doesn't have a sports-like bone in his body. He doesn't mind to fail, but Kirby is like, hey, like, I will help you catch the football, learn how to do this, and get better at it. So the next day, they're having Cody injured in bed, and Kirby's, like, visiting him. And Cody doesn't even think he should keep doing this until he realizes that he could use science to learn how to do it. And it's really not that interesting watching Cody learn how to play football using this method. London realizes she doesn't really know anything about football until the former Arizona Cardinals quarterback comes in. I don't even know why they had to have this guy be a part of it. It feels like they wrote this entire episode on just having this football player be a part of it, but he's not even like interesting enough to justify a whole episode being about this. I do not vouch for Cody to get good at this because I know he doesn't even like the sport. So it's more kind of like a revenge episode in a way that didn't need to be. I gotta be honest though, like, I didn't know anything about fantasy football. I do think it's fun to like tie that into this, like having not known about it. It reminds me of like that whole Dungeons and Dragons era where like they actually kind of weave that into storylines because it's so common. This is kind of like a primarily male-driven sports thing. I wasn't really into this at all, so learning about it wasn't super helpful. I'm glad there's an episode representing it, but if you know the Disney Channel audience, I bet they don't care either. This kind of feels like a waste of an episode, like one of the writers just had an idea, or were like a fan of this concept and wanted to write about it. It just doesn't feel authentic to the show, Sweet Life, and like if this were in the original show, it wouldn't even make any sense. That's why I'm like judging it so hard. The part where they're all in costumes watching the game is really cringy. I feel like they don't fit in the costumes at all. Like, why in the world would Marcus be wearing a baby outfit? I don't know. This is the part that is kind of off track for me. I do feel like it would be relevant seeing it in person, that they would have like something like this on like the Sky Deck or some kind of way to watch sports. So it's cool, it kind of fits into the universe of a cruise, but it doesn't feel like it panders to any of the characters, doesn't incite anybody to grow except for Cody, and I don't know if I'm interested in watching Cody do something he didn't want to do in the first place. But yeah, I guess I hope people are excited that this football player's here, because I sure as heck am not. And aside from these two episodes being like really annoying, there's also the one where they have a whole spy mission. The Sweet Life on Deck is so all over the place when it comes to what it wants to be, whether it's like a sequel to the original series, whether it's trying to be more unique on its own. It feels like it doesn't use the parts of being on deck that would actually be really cool. The opener of this season, The Spy Who Shoved Me, is about them becoming secret spies, and there's actual real world stakes, something that I feel like makes me feel like it's a completely different genre show. Like, it's a cool concept watching the boys work together, like Zack and Cody together are like the whole point of this show. But then when Bailey gets involved because they started dating and they have a whole guest star that is already a spy, things just get lost in the sauce. Like, too many plots are colliding here. Cody and Zack go to this like really fancy party where they're looking for a woman with a red finger, and it gives me the vibes of when they thought one person in the Tipton Hotel was the hotel inspector. Like, that was a really cool episode when they were trying to get the whole kitchen together. But here, it's with this really out-of-this-world objective that doesn't even feel like it matters. An off-genre episode like this, I feel like these usually work pretty well. The Super Twins episode from the original Sweet Life that had them getting superpowers, and even though it was like a tinge unrealistic at first, I feel like it did have like its quirky moments. This took it a little bit too overboard. I feel like believing that they could actually be super spies is a little too much. I get accepted in Jimmy Neutron, but not in the Sweet Life on Deck. Sorry, guys. Honestly, guys, season 3 of Zack and Cody is a new level of bad that I didn't even know how to comprehend. There's just something about it. Not only did it get Flanderized times 10, but it feels like it's like not even the same show anymore. They keep just doing wacky things for the sake of being wacky. For example, this is season 3, episode 14, Frozen. And we got a couple of teenagers on a boat going to a sea school. So I don't know why we have an episode where they get locked in like Antarctica. And keep in mind, it's not even just like for a day. It's like they get stuck here for at least a week. Yeah, so I guess this ship is docking at Antarctica. Zack wanted to go snowmobiling, and Woody wanted to go to the South Sandwich Islands, even bringing a jar of mayonnaise this entire time, and he does not let this go, like, ever. So yeah, this doctor ends up being really weird. And the cheesiness of them snowmobiling is really unforgivable. Like, it's one thing to have a borderline wacky show, but like to go this overboard and think we're not like smarter than that, like, guys, come on. The Sweet Life franchise is starting to insult me at this point. In the B plot, it's about London and her Arturo Vitale, some kind of a designer, and Bailey accidentally convinces him to give up all of his work on designing. This actually affects London really bad, and she's having a hard time, and it's all coming out of like a selfish reason. At first, it's like, oh, this designer's finally taking care of himself, but then London literally staple guns him to one of the rooms until he can come up with a new design. And I'm like, that cannot be legal, London. You cannot do that. I mean, eventually it works. Like, he gets inspired and finally put something together, but if I were him, I would have called the police. I don't know why London and Bailey had to get up all in this guy's business when he's just trying to enjoy his cruise. It's kind of intense for no reason. So yeah, the entire episode serves as this like stuck type episode, something that they've done in Drake and Josh a lot, you know, like where they get on the side of the road or stuck in the tree house. The only difference between that and this is that's actually funny. These events aren't even interesting. After the scientist steals the kids' mobiles, leaves them out for dead in this Antarctica bunker, they just have to fend for themselves in the most non-entertaining ways ever. Zack and Cody go ice fishing and end up getting a bunch of plastic bags. Haha. Woody keeps joking about eating the boys alive, which is kind of real because they genuinely are stuck and possibly going to die. It feels like it's got all the high stakes but none of the fun, kind of like that Lost at Sea special where they all get trapped on that island, but it's escalating and getting worse and not funnier. It's not improving. We don't know more about the characters. London ends up getting her way by the end of the episode with the fashion show still going on and her not being embarrassed. What was that really worth in the end? I don't know, something about the Sweet Life on Deck is just really starting to bother me at this point. There's also another episode in this season, and honestly, I could have gone over every third season episode with how bad these are. The next bad one, I would say, is called Snakes on a Boat. And this takes everything to the next level in the stupidest way possible. For one, this is one of the last episodes before Graduation on Deck, the series finale, so it should be like really good. It reminds me of that movie Snakes on a Plane, which is a very popular comedy movie from way back when, and this pretty much takes its concept and makes it more of like a survival type thing, with involving everybody on the boat as snakes keep coming out everywhere. It doesn't have anything to do with the characters. There's no arcs, development, anything worth mentioning, honestly. In fact, Cody's whole B-plot is he wants to be funny. Like, Bailey says he's not funny, so while this whole snake endeavor thing is going on and they're filling up the entire boat, Cody is just trying to be a comedian. And I gotta admit, this is a funny concept, but it didn't really get that interesting at all during this whole time. Woody and London spend a lot of time together, and I don't really think these guys are that funny together. It's not really like working in the same way that Maddie and London used to work in the original series. If this was like a Sweet Life of Zack and Cody episode, that would be really interesting, like snakes attacking the Tipton or like being put everywhere, but they wouldn't have this odd amount of vignettes between like Cody and Bailey or London and Woody or even Mosby being the one to capture all these snakes. I feel like they took the angle that was the least interesting, and the original show wouldn't have gone this bad ever. Oh, I do like that Mr. Mosby has like his heroic moment where he is the one to stop all the snakes on the ship, but it's not really that entertaining outside of that. Oh, there is one like funny part. It's where Cody's giving Zack advice about a girl, and he says that the best way to give advice is to always use numbers of sixes. Like, how many girls did you date? 6. How many girls haven't you dated? I don't even know. And that's like semi-interesting, but it's so crazy that like there's these two mundane issues with the main characters, and yet an overarching plot of snakes getting all over the boat, in which none of the three kind of collide in a natural way. It just feels like an over-dramatic plot and really boring dialogue throughout the entire episode. I mean, Maya's an interesting character, but it's kind of sad to bring in so many new characters for this show that you just inevitably abandon. We had Doc Shaw in the second season, but then now he's gone, and then now Zack has a girlfriend, Maya, and she's literally here just for the tail end of the series. Like, what else can you do for this actress? They did something similar to this on Wizards of Waverly Place. They actually had like a recurring new character for a little bit. I think her name was Stevie from the third season, and that's a lot more interesting. They actually attached a real plot line of like them becoming friends and everything. This, they just wanted to stamp on a girlfriend to Zack. Zack even talks about how he's been with so many girls, but knowing the show for at least 5 years at this point, I kind of don't believe he's with that many. I get it, like maybe he kissed them or some point, but like we've watched them grow up for the most part. I feel like we would know a little bit more if Zack actually was involved with this many women. He's no Drake Parker from Drake and Josh, especially since we don't actually see when he's with these people, unlike Drake. But yeah, like I said, everything works out, and the snakes part is given the least amount of time, despite the fact it's the most interesting part of the episode's title. This whole thing just feels like a giant waste of time, and I would forgive a lot of it if it wasn't for that really awkward montage of Mosby personally one by one getting rid of every snake. It's cute, it's a funny idea that Mosby's the one to save the day, but why does he have to do it by himself completely, have a whole montage about it, and then like nobody else is helping him? Like, it could have been like a huge come together moment, everybody putting aside their differences, maybe Woody and London even undoing their mistake, but it seems like they don't really take a lot of accountability in this episode either. So all around, I just don't understand why the Sweet Life of Zack and Cody on Deck had to go on this long. But yeah, all around, Sweet Life on Deck, major disappointment. If these episodes don't convince you to not watch it, I don't know what will. Maybe you'll like it, maybe you get the vibe of the original. I feel like just having the funniest actors be a part of it is definitely something that is its high point. I could see somebody liking this show, but I can't see somebody being a major fan of it because of all the inconsistencies. It's almost like the more you know about the lore and what they've set up, the more adept you are to fail when you're watching it, because it doesn't keep in contact with all the stuff it's set up.
I forgot to do my wizard presentation, so I'm just making one up on the spot.
Oh, what is your topic gonna be? Wizards versus mortals. Who is stretchier?
Wizards of Waverly Place is one of the rare shows that just have very minimal bad episodes. Sure, there was a bunch of weird gimmicks that Disney Channel tried to promote, and maybe they positioned them in a really awkward way sometime, but for the most part, rewatching Wizards of Waverly Place has been pretty smooth sailing. Some of the things that take me out of it the most would be the cheesiness of it all, like the costumes, the spells, the special effects of the 2010s.
Those J's are like fish hooks.
Were just not up to the storytelling standards that the show actually did. Today, I'm gonna go through 1 or 2 episodes of every season that I feel like is the most far off from its original plan. What's up, everybody? It's Johnny 2000, focusing on 2000s movies, TV, music, and so much more. And today we're diving into the most offensive episodes of Wizards of Waverly Place. So let's dive right in. So one of the worst episodes in Season 1, I definitely have to say, is Season 1, Episode 18, Credit Check. So this is the episode where Alex actually starts working at this fashion place. It starts out really funny, like it's them trying to come up with a catchphrase for a new sandwich at the sub shop. And Alex has the idea first, but then everybody else takes credit for it, which is kind of crazy. Jerry, in training, teaches them about a new spell that actually freezes things. Apparently, spells are named after famous wizards, which is interesting. I don't remember seeing this at all. Maybe I'm just so caught up in the later seasons. And here's the weird catch. The spell only lasts as long as you could hop on one foot. Something I really was not expecting to be possible. At the sub shop, Alex is serving this fashion designer at his seat. And she's very sassy, very like outwardly herself, and he kind of likes this about her. Although it does remind me a lot of That's So Raven, when Raven became like in the fashion industry. I don't know why we can't just do something different. Like Disney, you know you want her to sing, just have something singing related. Alex has the confidence to literally critique everything this guy's working on and be like, nope, that's not good, that's not good. And it just, he is impressed by this, which I would be angry at this. This is good timing because she doesn't feel appreciated at the sub shop, so of course she's gonna jump out of the family business. I feel like that's the most interesting aspect. When she gets to the fashion place, it becomes a lot more snobbier and conceited than she imagines, which is perfect because this is New York, of course. Like, they give her a kiss and she's supposed to give a kiss back. Automatically, Alex is not fitting into this new environment or enjoying herself. I feel bad for her, though. In the B plot, they end up hiring a new person to work at the sub shop. Of course, it has to be a young, attractive lady for Justin and Max to fight over. Justin makes a goal to ask Millie out. Already kind of a red flag if you're working in the same place. Alex has a really good pitch for this fashion company. It's called Bringing Summer into Fall, which is a really cool concept. The fashionista who actually owns the company is here to accept the pitch. And guess who it is? It's Miss Hafer from Drake and Josh. The perfect person to be a snotty New Yorker. I don't know why, she's just such a good actress. I feel like she was so funny in Drake and Josh, so to see her like be this fashionista is really entertaining. The twist in the episode comes in when Miss Hafer really likes this idea and gives all the credit to Jeffrey, the person that Alex is working for. And to be fair, like in the artist landscape, this is kind of how things work. In like kind of a not fun way. I feel like if apprentices or interns have ideas, they tend to not get credit for it. And in this particular episode, it really bothers Alex. I mean, it bothers me. It's really not fair. Especially this guy's just such a jerk. He is not remorseful. He's just like, this is the way things go. And not cool. Meanwhile, we get another funny moment when Max tries to hype up Justin, like his hype man, and he just accidentally says the most embarrassing things ever. I love this part. Look at this.
Did you know that Justin wears his underwear in the shower?
So Alex is still mad at this fashion company, so she actually enlists Harper to make a bunch of dresses, and she's pitching to this guy that she's gonna have a whole fashion show, and then he's gonna invite the boss back, and that's gonna be a really fun experience. And Alex is like, wow, this is the perfect time to embarrass him. She enlists Harper to create a bunch of really ugly outfits just to get back at him. And there's a really funny joke where she's like trying to enter his office, and he's like, who's there? But like, it's see-through, bro. Like, how do you not see Alex? So yeah, she's putting this whole fashion show together, and right at the final hour, this guy decides to let her have the credit. Yeah, Miss Schaefer comes in, and he's like, yeah, don't worry, all of this is Alex's idea, which is actually a nice gesture. He doesn't know how ugly the clothes are. Alex is able to use that spell that freezes time to make all the outfits, which is really funny. She has to hop on one foot, turn all of Harper's ugly outfits into something passable and impressive pretty quickly. A funny concept, and since Harper doesn't know that Alex is a wizard, it's a lot funnier to see her try to get away with all this and still cover it up. Harper gets really angry when she sees all of her clothes are messed up, and I guess we just don't have to admit the fact that Alex took advantage of her best friend for this, whatever. Yeah, so everything ends up working out for Alex. The new boss loves her style. Great ending. The funny ending, though, is when Justin thinks that he's going to be going on a date with the girl that works at the sub shop, which, by the way, if you're working at the sub shop as like a single girl in New York, it's already not a safe place. Can you imagine the whole family like trying to hit on you? Like, Justin is not super sensitive to her and like the power dynamic that their family holds in this restaurant, but whatever, we're not going to get into that too much. In the end of the episode, he thinks he's going out with her, but then she just asks him to babysit while her and her boyfriend go out, which feels appropriate. I feel like this girl looks a lot older than Justin, like he is not ready to date her. All around, like, definitely a funny episode with their moments, but I feel like I laughed the least in these episodes than I did all the other ones. On top of the fact that it's like a fashionista type episode when so many of these shows were doing this at the time. I'm now thinking of True Jackson VP. Like, it's just overdone. And sure, we got the wizarding twist on it. I really like the idea of freezing time and only able to hop on one foot, but it doesn't come until like the very end of the episode. It's just so much of this is the wizard characters doing something that doesn't really relate to the world of wizards, nor does it like kind of help set them up for their future in any way. So I'm not really having fun with this episode. I had to put it here. Sorry, guys. Another episode that really pets my peeve in this season is the season finale art museum piece, which is kind of depressing. Like, if you know me, season finale is always a good opportunity to leave on a high note, especially if you know you're going to take a little bit of a break before whatever season comes next. Sure, it's a kid's show. It doesn't need to have that kind of exciting ending because you know they're coming back, but I don't know, all around this episode is just so boring. It's kind of like Night of the Museum parody. It's about Alex not completing her history assignment because she's lazy. She keeps wanting to use magic for shortcuts, already a pretty negative character trait, and she ends up going to the museum after hours and getting stuck there. Now she brings all the paintings to life and gets her history lesson from them directly, which also is just a history lesson, Alex. I don't know if you shortcut a lot of stuff, really. It's funny because the security guard that works at the museum is this woman that keeps recurring over and over again in the first season, which I miss this. I miss this concept. Like, I wish she would keep coming back in every episode, or even in the new series. Like, that would be awesome. But they forgot about her pretty quick. It becomes pretty much a Night of the Museum parody in a boring way, because in season 3 they end up having an episode that's a lot more like this, where they get trapped in the exhibit, which kind of feels like a repeat. So looking back on this episode isn't a lot of fun, let alone the fact that there's not a lot of jokes. It's just like one big long history assignment and not super fun. Like, sure, Justin comes in, saves the day, great, but like, why would you end the season about wizards in a boring historical way? Like, even the new series just ended with Alex Russo dying, question mark? I didn't see it yet either, so it doesn't count as a spoiler because I don't even know what I'm talking about. But yeah, so it feels like they could have done a little bit more here. Whatever. The second season of Wizards of Waverly Place is surprisingly, I would say, the weakest one. Sure, we have Harper figuring out that the whole family's wizards. That's a pretty monumental moment. We have a nice return to WizTech, which is definitely better than the first one, and even a 4-part episode finale, which, by the way, I would argue is what makes it so bad. Like, when they did events that, like, just had like sub names like Wizards versus Vampires and then 4 parts, like, that stuff's not fun for me. I feel like they're not like committing to the idea of being a serial episode, which they do end up doing in the 3rd season, but here it just feels like they're not trying to make it consistent. One of the most boring episodes, I would say, in this one is Hugh's Not Normus. Remember Hugh Normus from the Wizard School episode? Yeah, he's this guy that is convinced he's a giant, but is really just a normal-sized human and looks down on everybody because of this. It's actually a really funny concept. So he runs away from home in this episode, and Alex is already insecure about being a bad person, I guess, so she decides that he's allowed to stay with them without consulting anybody. It's so weird that none of the shows acknowledged that this guy is in all the teen shows. Like, Austin Butler was a background character and had a lot of lines, and so did this guy. He was on Glee, this show, Drake and Josh, and he plays essentially the same mumbling character. But here on Wizards, it is his best work. I feel like we get a lot of time with him, and he's kind of a funny character. It just feels like the intentions in this episode aren't so interesting. So Alex stores this guy in her room, which is very inappropriate for a teenage girl, and she's not even like super helpful toward him. Like, she just expects his problems to be solved the way she talks to him.
Oh my gosh, this helping others thing is taking way too long.
And she accidentally makes both of them ginormous, because he's insecure about being actually small. I do like that concept. This whole episode is like him coming to terms that maybe he's not a giant, and That's really cute. The Giants actually show up at the Russo's place. Jerry knows nothing about what's going on, and Alex doesn't even like admit it when they come here. They like keep him in the room, and it's not fair. I am interested in the concept of like adoption in the wizard world. Like Hugh had a different parent, and then Giants were able to take him under their wing. Like, that's kind of an interesting tool, but they don't really go into it ever again, which kind of reminds me that the show could be better. A lot of the comedy in this episode comes from like Alex's room being shrunk and they are huge. That's funny because it has to do with the character, but it really doesn't prompt any more plot at all. Alex ends up getting Hugh's real parents to come in and speak to him in the wizard lair, and it's a really nice moment, and it actually makes the episode worth watching. I feel like the offensive or not great episodes of this show are never that bad. Like, this one just felt like it was dragging on a little too long, and I feel like Alex was selfish, and when something did work out for her, she didn't really take a lot of credit for it or acknowledge that she did hard work to do it. So she still has a long way to go as a character. At least she gets like a nice feeling at the end. Then also episode 23 in this season was a little bit boring for me. It's called Paint by Committee, and this is a fun idea for an episode, but not like a great execution. The episode starts with Justin, Harper, and Alex going down to the subway train to acknowledge all the graffiti and art. And it's funny because it's like Justin's way of telling her she was nominated to do the mural at school. And it's cool because it's like Alex is actually pretty good at art. Like, they've mentioned it before, but from this episode on, they do kind of keep it as a character moment for her. But that's kind of not here nor there. The one thing that Alex cares about, like, she actually gets into this. It becomes not really much of a chore for her, and she even likes drawing. Well, that's a great acknowledgement. When they get to school, she's kind of disheartened to see that everybody's opinion gets jumping into her idea, which is the true pain of an artist.
The Statue of Liberty shredding an electric guitar.
And panda bears.
This is like kind of annoying though, because I feel like we're getting to an artist plot line, like as if this is going to be kept for a lot longer. And if they ever did another episode about art and Alex liking art, like that's cool. I feel like they just kind of push it into this episode. And then she becomes a little bit snarkier, not wanting to incorporate anybody else's ideas, and it's kind of Alex versus everybody else. It's cute when she gets like a talking to from one of the graffiti artists. He's a really funny character, and she kind of gets a little bit more insight that like maybe people just want to see what they want to see, and art is like objective. So she uses a spell on the mural that allows everybody to see what they want to see. That way she doesn't have to actually worry about it, which is kind of a crazy cop-out, because clearly like if you make art, like you have a passion for it and you want to do it. So it's like interesting to think that like she has it happen here. In the end, she realizes that she does have a little bit of artistic integrity, and it's okay to have a painting that other people don't approve of. Even if they like it so much, like why sell out just to get everybody to be happy? Which is an interesting intersection between art and commerce that we talk about a lot in America specifically. Mr. Laritate represents like the government pretty much, and he's still funny as ever. And it's nice to see that Alex picks up on a hobby, but it feels like an episode that doesn't necessarily have to do with wizards. Like even the part where they magically possess the mural, it doesn't seem to go too far. Even the B plot feels like it has nothing to do with anything. It's just Max doing crazy stunts. I don't even want to get into it. The point is, when I watched this episode recently, I never realized how if it went away, nobody would notice. So I had to make a reference to that. If I had to give like a little shout out to an episode, I feel like season 2 episode 3 graphic novel is really aggravating for me. So in that episode, Alex is worried about having her secret revealed to the whole school, that she likes Dean, and one of the popular girls, Gigi, ends up finding her journal and gets whisked away into it. And the only thing that really bothers me about the episode is it's like completely filtered in like this iMovie effect. And sure, like that's a cool idea. Like we used to do that a lot in the 2010s, back when filters weren't normal or like weren't like a common thing. But now that like we're used to filters over everything, this one like does not hold up well. Like looking at it is a pain. I get it. Like it's supposed to be a really cool episode with like one of the characters even almost drowning, but I swear it's such an eyesore. I cannot not recommend it enough. So please don't watch this episode if you have a watch through, because it will not be worth it. And of course, I could get into how Wizards versus Vampires, the 4-part special in the end of the episode, was necessary, but I really don't want to. I feel like when they did this early enough, like, it wasn't a great concept. All around, like, the second season had some pretty negative lows for me. So much more than the first season, so I just had to mention the extras. Season 3 of Wizards of Waverly Place is when it got really interesting. Not only did they introduce a lot of really cool recurring plot lines, but they committed to having the episodes have multi-layers that transition to the next episode, like a very serial style of storytelling, which you have to admire. It's a risky thing, especially in a Disney Channel show, but, you know, every season has its downfall, and these are some of the episodes in Season 3 that did that. For the first one, it's episode 19, Dad's Bugging Out, and this one, I saw on the internet a lot of other people didn't like it either. For me, it was definitely really creepy. But let's get into it. I gotta admit though, one of the funniest jokes in the entire series is the last line in this cold open where Justin actually wins with one of his disses.
Ooh, no, because I checked your calendar and you got no plans for the next 30 years.
Ha! I don't have a calendar.
Ha! People who don't have calendars also don't have plans. Owned! Oh, sold!
Yeah, that's funny. So Jerry's like working at the substation when the freezer door opens and all these magical creatures from past episodes just escape. I don't know what was holding them in before, but this is ridiculous. Where's the security system on this thing? You're wizards, you don't have any way. Surprise, surprise, it was Alex's fault, and Jerry kinda gets annoyed at her, telling her like she has to be more responsible with magic, which is fair, but Alex does not see a need for it at all. It's this late in the series and she's still not seeing how bad her actions are. Alex, we're on like episode 60 at this point. This really weird fly starts attacking the lair and Jerry tries to kill it, but it ends up biting him. At first they're like, okay, this is gonna be no big deal, not so cool. So Jerry starts itching and there's going to be a bigger problem, I'll tell you that much. We cut back to school and Alex notices that Justin and Zeke are head of the alien communication club where they like speak their own language. It's kind of ridiculous. And they decide that they're going to host this whole thing at the sub shop. So Justin is really adamant about all this going well, and as you can imagine, it's not going to. The kid Frankie comes back for like a random cameo in this. I don't know if you remember him. He was in the first season for a couple episodes, but he has like his own little shop in the substation, and he's the first to freak out when they start noticing Jerry's getting twitchy. Justin tells the whole family how important it is that they have a really good event, and the stakes get raised a lot, especially when Jerry literally comes back fully as a roach, and it is disgusting. I feel like this whole episode is gross. It's literally about keeping Jerry away from their whole event so Justin can actually get away with it. Of course, Alex is always the one to ruin all of his stuff, and it becomes one of those arguments once again. Kind of reminds me of Drake and Josh, the way these two bicker. So Justin is still insistent on getting this whole alien language club off the bat, but everybody is losing interest, with Zeke and Justin barely holding them on. Alex tries to be sensitive and help Justin make up for it, especially when this whole alien language club thing gets super boring. And she has the genius idea of actually using Jerry in it, which I think is kind of a good idea. I feel like it's under the context of like alien language. Of course, people are gonna react to him, and then everybody freaks out. I mean, if it were me, I would just assume this is a man in a giant suit, which I wish they thought that. They definitely think he's like a real alien, but at least Justin's day gets saved. The only thing about this episode that's just so frustrating is how gross Jerry is. Like, he's twitchy, he's like, it's just him suffering for like one mistake that Alex made, and there's a lot of suffering going around in this episode. At least everything like works out in the end, but not a lot of the jokes make up for the mundane storyline. You know, like, they're barely anywhere beside just the sub shop and school in this episode. I feel like it could have been more interesting compared to everything else that's happened in the third season. Like, there's just a lot of cool things. Another episode that kinda is not exciting to me is episode 20, Max's Secret Girlfriend. We have a guest star in this, Bella Thorne, but she's kind of like irrelevant in a weird way. So Alex and Harper find out that Max has been seeing this girl at school. Like, it's been like a secret girlfriend he didn't tell them about, which is surprising because there's no way. These hallways are so small, and I don't know why Max would have thought he could have got away with having this in the hallway and not be suspicious. Turns out Max doesn't even have his name Max, so it's just him like lying to this girl over and over again, and it kind of makes him seem like a less redeemable character than he ever was before. Like, it's one thing to have him be the joke or the idiot in the group, but he's borderline manipulating this girl into staying with him. When Justin and Alex get to the bottom of it and actually confront him, he tells them that it's because they don't want him to meet their parents. Like, that would be super embarrassing. So Alex and Justin are like, why don't we pose as your parents? So they use like an age up spell, and this part is so unnecessary. It doesn't even have a lot of good jokes, which I would excuse pretty easily.
Nice cut, Justin. Looks like I dodged a bullet with you.
So Alex and Justin pretend to be a married couple, and they just bicker like brother and sister, and it kind of works perfectly. Like, they look just like parents. Right when Max brings home his girlfriend to meet them, it gets even weirder because Jerry and Teresa come home right then from like a World War II reenactment thing. I love that that's like the concept. Like, why would those parents be involved in something like, you know, whatever. We're not going to question it. That one's just a funny idea. So they confront everybody pretty quickly. They basically sit down as a family and are like, Max, you have to tell this girl the truth. You can't have a relationship based on lie, which is a great message. The funniest part of this episode is after the act break, they come back and Max is like, you're right, I did it. I told her I'm a wizard, so no more lies. And it's interesting because it shows that, like, Max has been groomed into lying his whole life. His entire family are experts on tricking the mortals just to blend in. So, like, why wouldn't he use all these things he grew up with understanding to get a girlfriend? I feel kind of bad for him. Just the reaction to this whole thing is why this episode's, like, kind of annoying to me and why I don't love it, because I wish they weren't such hypocrites and actually, like, saw this as their problem too, not just Max's and him just being silly. So the next goal becomes to invite this girl over and convince her that Max was lying and lying about everything, which shouldn't be that hard. I don't even know if there's a conflict. And this is interesting because this goal feels very shallow to me. Like, they're trying to help Max lie to her after telling him not to. Like, that's the part that really bothers me. And this girl is falling for everything, which is kind of sad because it's like her and Max are really a great combo. Like, she's weird, he's weird. They talk about a lot of weird stuff. Next thing you know, we're going through a series of a fake magic carpet ride. Like, all these things that essentially tried to prove that Max was a wizard. They're tricking her was like just this fake thing going on. Justin has the skills to make a giant machine to make it look like they were actually flying, and I can't believe he was even able to accomplish that. That's like nuts to me. All around, they managed to trick her once again, and I guess that's the message of the episode, is that if you commit to a lie, keep doing it for the rest of your life. Okay. Real mature guys. So yeah, the third season is just so good, it's hard to find episodes that didn't work. Like, I still feel like I liked that dad bugging out episode. I still really enjoyed the Max's new girlfriend. Like, at this point, the show is so good that, like, even the boring episodes are not that boring. So it's hard to find stuff that I don't love. Then we get the final season 4 of Wizards of Waverly Place. And this is the one where it got the most jarring for me, not just because the theme song changed, but because Justin put his hair back up? Yeah, kind of crazy. But yeah, this one got a really serial, all talking about the wizard family competition, which is actually kind of interesting. I love that the siblings are pit against each other most of the season, but this is one of the episodes I feel like is the weakest in this whole era. It's called 3 Maxes and a Little Lady, Season 4, Episode 5. A reminder that Alex is dating Mason for this episode. Justin has already finished his studies and is getting ready for the wizard competition, and Max is falling behind. And that's kind of where this episode falls in line. Jerry tries to get Max into a club just to free himself of the guilt of Max not learning enough, and it's basically the sophisticated wizard club that he thinks will rub off on Max, and Max is like, oh, I don't know if I need that, but he goes for it anyway. What a nice son. Alex is trying so hard to get ahead in the wizard competition because she knows there's like, it's just no way. Justin is so far ahead, almost by like a full year. And in this episode, he's taking on a bunch of WizTech students and being their tutor, essentially. So I don't know how in the world this guy would not end up winning. He's kind of rude to her and not really helpful. It becomes a lot more of a Alex and Justin bickering episode, which most of this season feels like. I feel like Max is so far out of the picture, it's like they're having a hard way of putting him into the plot again. At least they have this episode, though. Alex goes to the Wizard Commission's office, which is the people that are, like, in charge of this whole competition, which is kind of interesting. They have a whole thing for that. And she tells us what's at stake. Like, basically, she can't be with Mason if she loses this competition. And this woman is just like, I would give up now. No big deal. And I'm kind of worried about Alex, too. Like, I want her to do a good job. She basically suggests that if Alex wants to stay in, she could join Justin's tutoring class. And this woman's like, he can't say no to it, which I don't understand whose side she's on at this point. So Alex gets enrolled in Justin's class. In the B plot, we actually have what's going on with Max, which is crazy that the whole episode is titled after him and he's just the side plot. He's with these sophisticated wizards and they pretty much mock him the whole time. And I feel bad for Max because it's like, it's one thing to like not be super smart, but like to have people like openly mock you in your own home, and his parents just want him to be a part of this group, so he's probably not feeling great right now. And the fact that they all underestimate him, know that he's not going to be a part of the competition, is even insulting enough. Alex joins Justin's class, and she's actually really disrespectful. Like, he is literally teaching you now, and she's just become like a nuisance in class, which is not that surprising. I just was kind of hoping they would be a little bit better about that. Max even uses the sophistication of his friends to make fun of Justin, which is kind of not cool. Like, he becomes even partially a bully, and I'm not liking Max in this light at all.
Justin, I'm sure you're far too busy being the president of the I'm losing the wizard competition club. I want you to go have a meeting.
The guys in his group notice, and since they're sophisticated and smart, they are just like, why don't you just move up the wizard competition, Max? And that's kind of crazy. Like, this is such an insane twist for one of the boringest episodes. Justin and Alex are working together because actually Alex does care. And this is how they get moved into the A plot, because apparently the wizard competition's moved up and they are freaking out. So like in the middle of them studying, trying to get it figured out, like the competition's moved up. It is the only realistic way Max could probably compete. So it's hard to argue the logic. It just seems like it's coming from such a cynical place. Like an episode like this must not be great for the main characters. They realize that the only way they're going to convince the commissioner to put the date back is if they have the original person who changed it go in there. So Alex and Justin turn into Max, not even realizing each other is doing it. They just like go in separately, and then it all becomes like this really awkward hodgepodge. It's just weird because it's like almost like Justin and Alex are sabotaging the Max plot and making it their own, because we still have Max at the wizard house with his sophisticated friends. He gets a nice talk from Jerry where Jerry actually admits like he doesn't have to be sophisticated, that he's pushing Max a little too hard, which I agree. Maybe that's why Max is so funny, because he's been pushed way too hard. And it's really funny to see Alex and Justin both be Max. It makes me realize that Jake T. Austin must be a super great actor, because he sounds, I'm convinced he is both Alex and Justin at the same time. They end up turning back to normal eventually and get the wizard date moved all the way back, even turn Max into a different person. Kind of random. So there's a lot of apologizing that needs to go on in this episode that doesn't even necessarily happen. It's just everybody kind of turning their backs on each other one by one, and 3 Maxes come out of it. I do think this is a really good Max episode, but they lean into it a little too much. Like, they turn this guy into just being a joke, and now he's like so far out of the competition it's not even funny. It also ends on a cliffhanger, which is super unnecessary for like this new serial format. Like, they can't turn turn Max back into himself, so he's just this little girl, and everybody is like, oh, I don't know what to do. It's cool that we have a couple steps toward the actual wizard competition, like stakes are being raised, Alex is trying, Justin is trying, but the fact that Max's subplot just became Alex and Justin's A-plot means that, like, this episode named after Max isn't really about Max at all, and Max is barely in it, except for when Justin and Alex are playing Max. The parents really didn't have a good look in this episode. Teresa was like super conceited, and I feel like Jerry was also pushing Max to do something he didn't want to do, but he did come out on top, like, in a positive way. I feel like there was some good elements, but there were mostly negative elements. This season gets a little too repetitive, if you ask me, like, in a way that, like, it flanderizes itself, like, it knows what it's about, so it just keeps doing similar plots over and over again. And yeah, so not super fun. Also, season 4 episode 18 is kind of ridiculous. It's Wizards versus Asteroid, and this is exactly what it sounds like. It's exactly that premise from Danny Phantom Planet, when there's a giant asteroid heading toward Earth and they're going to die. Yeah, that's exactly what happens in this. It does start out kind of funny, though, with the news reporter explaining that it's the end of the world and Max just trying to wave in the background. That's kind of a funny bit. But for the most part, it feels like a huge tonal shift where everybody's getting ready for the end of the world. And it's kind of depressing to think everybody's going to die. Justin doesn't seem to have too much empathy for them because the wizards can just escape to the wizard world. Like, clearly they don't have anything to worry about. But their friends, Zeke and Harper, are going to die. A lot of the episode's plot derives from the television news station, which is kind of awkward. It's something they really can't have an actual handle on. They're just reporting to the news. Kind of weird. The wizards are taking it as it is and are like, okay, we'll go to the wizard world, but Alex is the only one that's like, hey, we can't leave these people behind. Something that actually works in her favor for the first time in a long time. Alex is the good character. So the three wizards decide to get in a space shuttle and head toward the asteroid, where most of the rest of the episode is going to take place. It's kind of like a Star Trek-esque vibe, which is kind of weird considering it's Wizards of Waverly Place on Disney Channel. And yeah, their wizarding powers and CGI come to a awkward standstill as I'm watching this episode. Like, I can't fall for anything that's happening. Sure, it's cool that the wizards are dealing with something they never would be able to deal with on their own, but this could be used in any plot for any show, essentially. So it just feels like lazy writing to an extent. There's some really good funny jokes in this.
We did it, we're leaving. That thing sounds like Mom when we're late for school.
You know, it breaks up the tension a lot since the stakes are so high, but honestly, it adds a really weird tonal awkwardness to this whole thing. Like, it's the end of the world, but also still funny. The through line in this episode is that Alex wants to graduate, but isn't going to because something she's slacking on, obviously. So the asteroid ends up hitting Tribeca Prep, which is insane. Laritate is the only one alive, it seems, in this school. And to think it was such a random episode to have this happen, I don't get with all these specials, the Wizards versus. Like, they just set up really awkward expectations that they can't always live up to. And this one in particular is a good example of why it's just not working. Overall, though, those were all 4 seasons of Wizards of Waverly Place. You could tell that the worst episodes were in the last season, some of the best episodes were in the third, and then first and second were a little with only really being bogged down by the awkward CGI and sometimes out of place plot moments. But for the most part, Wizards of Waverly Place has all their 98 episodes pretty good. I feel like there's only like 10 really bad episodes, and we've covered most of them here today. But I would love to know if you guys saw episodes you really didn't like, and I know most of them are from the 4th season, so I'm not gonna judge you, but put your comments in below. In the meantime, everybody, don't forget to like and subscribe to Johnny2000. I have so much fun making these videos for you, and I can't wait for you to see what I have in store next week. So thank you guys so much, and have a great day.